What's up, guys? It's Benny. Joe Rogan has been on a black pill, red pill bender over the last couple of years. Now Joe Rogan is straight up talking with Kash about how the deep state stole the election from President Trump, rigged the election against President Trump. And again, this is the FBI director on the biggest show in the world for any medium. Doesn't matter if it's TV, podcast, streamer. Joe Rogan show is the biggest. And they're just mainlining the theft of the election from Donald Trump. What glorious times we live in. It is neck-snapping. Incredible things are happening at such great speed. Here we go. Kash blows Joe Rogan's mind on the FBI, Russiagate, and rigging the election against Trump. It was a coordinated conspiracy to take down your political opponent by weaponizing the government and hiding the evidence. I'm going to start with this. Kash saying, you know, James Comey hid all this evidence in a room and locked the door, threw away the key. We had to pry the damn thing open.
The director of the FBI, the former Russiagate guy, when I first got to the Bureau, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover building, full of documents and computer hard drives that no one had ever seen or heard of. Locked the key and hid access and just said, no one's ever going to find this place.
What?
Yeah. So my guys are going through that right now.
What's in there?
A lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. People are like, well, okay, go arrest him. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you let me run a methodical investigation while I give over information? One of the things we gave over before this, the room deal was, I don't know if you remember who Nellie Orr is. It doesn't really matter. Nellie Orr's husband, Bruce Orr, was like the number 4 at the Department of Justice, and he was the one who introduced the world of Christopher Steele, the guy that started Russiagate. Well, the entire time her husband was doing that at DOJ, she, Nellie Orr, was working on an outside contract to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. So she goes to the Hill and testifies as a result of our investigation, right, under oath. She said, I never worked, and I'm paraphrasing, I never worked with my husband on any of that. I would never do that. Well, what did Grassley put out just yesterday, 2 days ago? The Nellie Orr documentation that the FBI hid to the world, that we gave them, where Nellie Orr is caught red-handed providing information to her husband, thumb drives related to Trump-Russia collusion, directly proving that Nellie Orr lied to Congress. Felony. Can't prosecute her. Statute of limitations is gone. That's just one example.
Wow. What a dirty business.
Dirty, dirty. Look at that. Look, you ever seen Joe Rogan's expression like that? Look at that. He's disgusted. You ever seen his face like that? Joe's disgusted. And then Kash actually gets to work on him. Listen to this.
97.
Okay.
Could you imagine a time in the United States of America in the 21st century where a political party would go overseas and acquire fake foreign intelligence from a foreign intelligence officer funded by donations to that political party in the United States of America, then take that material, package it, walk it to the FBI, literally, and say, hey, we need you to surveil the opponent of our political party who happens to be running for the president of the United States, then convince the FBI to go into a secret federal FISA court that I used to use to manhunt terrorists and say, hey, I need you to wiretap, essentially, all the comms in and around Trump camp because of the material we gave you, and then have that FBI lie to the federal court and the judge in that warrant application, which is a felony, and intentionally remove information of innocence from that application just to get it above the threshold so the judge would sign it. That's Russiagate. That's what they did.
Rigged an election. They rigged an election because they dropped all this stuff on Trump before the 2016 election. It was intended to rig the election. They dropped this Russiagate stuff in the summer of 2016. Of course, it followed the president's administration all the way through and hung as a black cloud over everybody working in the Trump White House. Nobody knew what was going to come next, special counsels and so on. So they stole the presidency from Donald Trump, technically in 2016 as well, Kash says. And then he says this.
Remember the years and years of reporting surrounding Russiagate. The FBI would never lie. They would never do that. The leadership there is above reproach. James Comey, Andy McCabe, Peter Strzok. The list goes on. We caught him red-handed. We caught him. You've seen the text messages. You've seen the documentation. You've seen the reports. But when I did that, when I exposed that initially as a staffer on the Hill, Adam Schiff comes out and has his cronies leak to the world that I am acting as a genocidal dictator. There was actually an article that called me
Genocidal
hang on, it gets better.
dictator.
Yeah, no, it gets better.
How do you get to be a dictator?
I don't know. Genocidal one, let alone, right? Like, it's a twofer.
His words don't even mean anything anymore.
No, he literally, there's an article out there that they called me Torquemada, the guy from the Spanish Inquisition.
Jesus Christ.
And I was a staffer. So the rule was you can ding elected representatives all you want in the media. You don't touch staffers. They didn't care because they knew what I had unearthed was the biggest political criminal scheme ever perpetrated by portions of the FBI leadership and other people in the intelligence community. So
in coordination with the media.
In coordination. And
who could have investigated it.
But hang on, that's the kicker.
The media caused Russiagate, so they laundered this through the media, and then they used the media's fake reporting as the pretext for Russiagate. So do you see it's a self-licking ice cream cone for the deep state? Cash goes in.
Tension was that warrant that initially kicked off the FISA surveillance on the Trump campaign writ large was substantiated by FBI leaks to the media. 2 of the articles cited in that warrant from, I think, Mother Jones and Yahoo News were leaks of information from the same leadership at the FBI, Peter Strzok, Andy McCabe, James Comey and company. And then they, in the application, would be like, hey, it's not just us saying that Trump's a Russian asset, right? Look at this article, Mr. Judge, on the federal FISA court. And they included it in that application. So this was a coordinated conspiracy to take down your political opponent by weaponizing government. And now I say that now in 2025. When I said that in 2017, whatever it was, people were like, you're out of your effing mind. And I was like, look, man, I'm just showing you the facts. I'm not making this up. I'm showing you the application. I'm showing you the documentation. And that's when they came after me. And it hasn't stopped ever since.
Joe Rogan is just blown away by how filthy and dirty all of this is and the mess that Kash Patel has to clean up.
The damage they did, they, the media, and the people that wanted to take out Trump. And I didn't care what you thought about. And remember, back then, I hadn't met Trump, never spoken to him, didn't know him. I took that job at Congress on one condition. I said, whatever we find, we're putting out. I'd been in for 16 years at that point. Democrats, Republicans. I was a national security guy, intel guy. That's what I wanted to do. Chase terrorists, chase bad guys, bring hostages home, and help protect the homeland. And I said, I didn't know if Trump did this. I didn't know if he was colluding with whoever. I didn't know it would turn out like this, that they would actually manufacture and make it up. But half of America to this day still believes the narrative that the CNNs of the world pushed for 5 years. And if you look on their shows now, Russiagate keeps coming back up because we keep exposing the documents that showed how bad these guys were. And most Americans are like, no, they're already convinced. So in order to fix that diseased temple, it is just that much harder of a lift for me to go back into the FBI. We're going to get it done, but it takes so much more communication and so much more energy to get after the American people and say you were lied to, because that's the hardest thing I think people can ever admit to themselves. Right. You were lied to. I went out for years and created a life cycle out of this lie of Russiagate. I went on TV. I made money. I wrote books. I sold political advertisements based on it. I educated my children based on it because I thought it was the truth. And some of them have come back and said, yeah, we got it wrong, but most haven't. And that's the disinformation seed, in my opinion, that started it all. And then you could talk about things like January 6th or, pick your poison, rescuing a hostage or what have you. The media just never got on board. They kneecapped Trump from the beginning by participating in the Russiagate collusion conspiracy with the FBI.
But who's next on the docket for Kash Patel? He says Dr. Fauci. He says we got him cold. Let's have a listen.
We just had a great breakthrough this week on Fauci. So Senator Rand Paul, Senator Kennedy, and I hate naming names because I always forget people, are doing a great job with us on COVID origins. And we've got multiple investigations open on that. But they had always been looking for Fauci's original phone, or not original, but phones and devices he used while he was Fauci back in Trump 1 during COVID. And nobody had found it till 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah. Now, look. Your audience and everybody listening to it shouldn't jump to the conclusion. Everything's in there. We'll look at it. We'll pull it. We'll rip it, as we say. And maybe it's deleted. Maybe it's not. But at least we found it. And at least now we can tell the American people we've been looking, because it is of public importance to figure out, did that guy lie? Did he intentionally mislead the world and cause countless deaths? We owe those answers to the American people. And the best evidence ever is always the people's evidence who created it. And so now we're going to go and exploit those hard drives. But I think a victory for the American people that we broke with Congress is that we did find it. We're not done. We're still looking, and we're on the case.
This is the kind of reason why we need to support Kash Patel. What a mess. It's hard to imagine like what an impossible Herculean feat it would be to clean up this rat's nest. And it's why we're doing our very best to throw support his way. I'm glad that he went on Joe Rogan to explain all of it. The next step that is absolutely necessary is prosecutions, arrests, and all of the evidence and data released. And that will really restore trust. And that's actually what we all want, right? We have to trust. We would like to have some trust restored and the deep state destroyed. Like, share, and subscribe if you agree. It's Weaponization. See ya.